Okay. We're good then. Yeah, last week the person I had on was saying it wasn't working either. So I'm not quite sure how to handle that yet.
Yeah, it's weird. It just kept disconnecting me from the room, and then it would
Mm-hmm.
finally connect. But you almost had to join as a guest, not in your
Yeah.
link. Yeah, that
Yeah,
is
and that's
weird.
weird because in like when I schedule the thing, it gives me an option to add multiple hosts, and that's where I put your email in. So I thought it would like figure itself out, but apparently
Yeah,
not.
apparently not. I guess we'll get there.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to finally get to talk to you face to face.
Yeah, you too.
That is awesome that we get to do this. This is a really great idea.
Mm-hmm. I like the whole platform, even though I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's a cool platform though. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not YouTube or Google, so you don't feel like you can't say certain things. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
really
it
like
does.
that.
It does stream to YouTube and Periscope, which I don't love. Like, I'm glad it streams, but you can't see like who's on it then, or you can't see if they ask any questions. You can only see the get vocal part.
Oh, weird.
So yeah, that's kind of a downfall,
Super
but
weird. Well, it's funny. I was actually just talking to Amanda, DJ's sister.
mm-hmm.
Our daughters are playing on Roblox together,
Oh,
keeping her entertained so they can actually do something. So that's
mm-hmm.
awesome. I think it's so amazing that you covered his case. How
Yeah,
did
that
you come
was.
across that?
Well, I followed her on Twitter, and for a while I was just like watching what she was posting. And then I contacted her, and as soon as I started going into like the files, I was amazed at how that was even considered like a
Right?
suicide. It doesn't make any sense.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, from the 911 call, I think from the second time, after he hangs up the first time, the second time he calls back, you know something's not right at
Yeah,
all.
and like when I first listened to the 911 calls, I didn't like catch on that he was hanging up. I kind of thought it was like disconnected. And
Right.
then I can't remember what other thing it was in the file, but it said like he kept hanging up because she was getting too loud or something in the background. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Right. Oh, you have a visitor and
Yeah.
gone. Yeah. I mean, from the very beginning, that case like stuck out. And
Mm-hmm.
the fact that he doesn't want her to be heard in the back,
Yeah.
and the 911 operator is telling him to discharge the gun, pick it up, move it, and place it somewhere else. I just have never heard
No.
that in my entire life,
Because,
ever.
yeah, that's 100% not what you're supposed to do.
Right. Not touch it. And then it's laying on the table when they come, and
Mm-hmm.
and he meets them in the driveway too. It's just all too,
Yeah, it
so
worked
many
out
things.
too well.
Yeah, worked out way too well,
Yeah.
for sure.
I
I'm so
couldn't.
glad you guys did that. That is awesome. And Amanda's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, she is. She was really
She's the
good at
sweetest.
answering questions because I always feel bad when like parents of victims or like family of victims send me something and then I have to ask a bunch of questions. But she's really like
Right.
quick with it and good about it.
Oh, she's amazing. And she
Mhm.
understands like if we get wrong facts because there's so many out there,
Yeah,
and she's like perfectly great about clearing them up. Yeah, I love Amanda.
yeah. I know I got like the entrance wound wrong because I went off what the coroner said or the medical examiner,
Right.
and she said it was the intraoral gunshot wound. And Amanda said,
Hmm.
no, it went through his cheek. And I was like, that's really weird then.
Yeah, there's no way you can get at that level at the way that it came down
Yeah.
at that angle. There's just no way you can get your hand, and he's not left-handed. So
Yeah. That doesn't
there was
make
a
any
lot.
sense.
Yeah, I can't believe that they are set like that. And it was funny because my husband was just saying, like, how can these medical examiners just call these things? And I was
Yeah.
telling him everybody needs to watch John Oliver's special on medical examiners in America that do
Okay.
cover these cases. There are some states that require only a GED.
That I was really surprised by that because I don't
Yeah.
know.
So 9 months of just training on a computer
Okay.
after you get your GED. And then what these medical examiners are doing is basically plugging in what they're seeing on the table into a computer that's
Okay.
giving them a determination of the cause versus, and I'm sure they're using their own experience that they've gained throughout time.
Mm-hmm.
But when did we stop requiring a medical degree?
Yeah.
is a very big question, and everyone should be concerned, because if it's your family member that passes away or something that happens, who do you want taking care of that body and making sure that it's safe and they're coming up with the right reasons of what happened?
Yeah. There's pets everywhere, so ignore that.
Yeah.
But
my daughter's cat's a complete jerk. Like, she's evil. She looks really cute, but she's Satan's child, I swear. Yeah.
Mine are sweet, but they're still kittens, so they're really curious and they knock everything over.
I love that. At least you're just like, whatever.
Yeah. We have a bunny running around too and some mice, so I don't get too picky.
That's awesome. So how did you get into doing this?
I don't really know. And so about a year ago, I signed my first book contract, and that's
crazy.
Yeah, that one kind of got me into it more, but I just recently finished my second book, and the whole first the prologue is me talking about how I don't know how I got into this at all. Because it seems one day I just went from having no interest in this to researching one case for weeks. And I don't know. How'd you get into it?
Do you know what case made you do it?
Yeah. So the Debbie Wolf case, I don't know if you've heard of that one.
No.
It's a really confusing one. So it's from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and it's from 1985, I believe. And she was a nurse at a veterans hospital. And on Christmas night, she went home, and then she never came back the next day for her shift.
Is this your first episode?
Yes.
That you did?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah. That was an amazing case. Yeah.
Yeah, that
I
case.
can see where it would draw you in.
Mm-hmm. So I think it started with that case and then just kind of spiraled from there.
That's awesome. Best spiral ever.
Yeah, I like it.
Spiral. This is the best way to go. Yeah, for sure. For me, I had been diagnosed with cancer. I'd had a stroke. I'd had 2 heart attacks.
Oh my goodness.
Things were just, I couldn't sleep at night.
Yeah.
I found myself if I fell asleep, my heart would do weird stuff and I would wake up and have these attacks. And so I was kind of up all the time. And then I heard Alissa Turney story, which I think we all know now. Which is the best thing in the world. Makes me so happy that people know that name so well. I had heard her story on Crime Junkies, just like I'd heard 100 before, thousands before. But it was she tapped me on the shoulder and was like, go do something with this. So I was going to school for technical engineering for computers. I dropped out and I said, I'm going to stop pursuing something I hate to pay bills.
Yeah.
And go do something I love. And even if it doesn't pay me, at least I find joy in it and helping people. And I reached out to Sarah and Brooke, and they were amazing. They let me write an article about Alissa, gave me all the information I needed.
Okay.
I really found myself obsessively researching where her body could be. I lived in Arizona. So I lived 20 miles from where she was last seen. So there was that connection too. And I just felt I'm right here and it's such a big case and nobody's paying attention. What can I do to help Sarah? Me and Alissa are a year apart. We have some familiar experiences that we both went through.
Okay.
So I definitely clung to her and felt just so angry that she didn't get her chance to have her fresh start in life. Everyone should, coming from that.
Yeah.
As a runaway kid, a foster kid. So I understand. And it just angered me that she didn't get her chance.
Yeah.
And from there, I saw that one person does have an impact. One person can help, even if that just means getting more Twitter followers for that account so that story gets out. But just every time I think that someone learns a victim's name and even a tiny bit of a story and carries it around with them, we've kind of given them at least a voice back.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I did also, in kind of the same thing you did, I was going to school for law because I wanted to become a lawyer for a long time. And
oh, wow.
I stopped that right when I started the whole podcasting thing and writing thing. So now I'm switching to forensic psychology, and I'm finding that I like it way more than I ever liked anything having to do with law.
That is awesome. Forensic psychology. Okay, so I was the kid that would told my mom that I wanted, I think it was 14, I wanted to interview Charles Manson. And she's like, what is wrong with you?
It'd be interesting.
And I was like, I'm a human studies person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really want to know how the brain works and why. And then I'm any underdog or injustice person.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't help. I'm gonna be at your side and root for you. So I feel like kind of the true crime takes both of those worlds and
it does
combines them really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
I get a weird joy of passion, and I know that sounds so weird, but it's like a joy working on these cases.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, we don't want to say we enjoy the cases technically because they're horrific cases, but you enjoy being able to like unravel certain things within the case.
Exactly, and put it together. Mm-hmm. And reaching out to the families has been absolutely amazing. I've gotten so attached to some of these families, and they become some of them have become my family, which is amazing. Yeah. So I'm like super blessed with that. And that's one I wanted to talk about was Brandy Myers.
Yeah. So before you mentioned it, I've heard of the case before. And then last night I only watched a few YouTube videos on it because I didn't have time to like deep dive into it. But so I learned a little bit about it, but I'd love if you could explain it like a little more.
Oh, yeah. So I actually met Kristen. I saw that there was a memorial for Brandy Myers, and I only saw like a little news clip, and I figured, you know what, I'm going to go. I want to meet her. Mm-hmm. This will be the first like person I actually meet face to face and work on their story. And Kristen, first of all, her sister, is probably the most realistic human being in the entire world. She's so open. She's so welcoming. She doesn't try to tell the case or narrate it anywhere. She's just so like raw and honest. She's an amazing person to work with. And she just started telling me about her sister going out to do a bookathon and just collecting pledges door to door and never coming back. And in this area that we were in Sunny Slope at the school, where in the neighborhood that it happened, and just standing in that neighborhood, you can see it's bustling. There's constant traffic. There's people. The neighbors hang out on their balconies. They're out and they're playing in the, a kid isn't going to easily get abducted from this area. I went back and I walked it with Kristen, and we went to her apartment and we walked the whole area. And again, there were so many people. There was just no way that Brandy went door to door for this bookathon and someone grabbed her off the street. It just wasn't of a car, a struggle. And so when Brandy didn't come home that night and they called the police even knew right away. There's just no way in this area that she gets abducted like this. And they had dogs and helicopters and over hundreds of people searching that night. The next day, they find a body that resembles Brandy. And instantly, everybody just pauses. But they realize it's not Brandy. It's an unknown victim, but she's same build, looks so much like Brandy. In fact, a lot of people will use her picture and say that she's Brandy.
Okay.
She is actually Shannon Amok. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I'm sure I'm going to ruin it. Shannon, I think, needs her own justice team in all of this too, because Shannon was a foster kid that was thrown to the system.
Okay.
Shannon had ran away over 8 weeks ago, and no one reported her and no one was looking for her.
In one of the things I watched, it said like no one said anything about her, but then the other one said the foster family contacted like CPS or whatever they were in, but then they never did anything. Do you know like which one of those was correct?
So everything that I found is I've seen that narrative, but I've never seen an actual proof of them contacting CPS.
Okay.
So that's the one side I see. And I do know that they did love her. However, I don't understand a family that adopts her at 3 and then drops her off at 12 saying they can no longer deal.
Yeah.
That was, and then they kind of wanted to stay involved with her, but I bet from that aspect, I don't see her wanting to keep up with someone that dropped her off.
Yeah, kind of gave up on her.
Called her a problem. But that she ran away and nobody was looking for her, and the only reason we knew was that we stumbled across her body is definitely shows you not just how broken Arizona's policing system is right now, as we've seen plenty of cases with lots of issues from that. But just how they handle their foster children too and it's just a mess. It's an absolute mess. And I think that helped lead to this case. So they're looking for Brandy. They find her, and I think, what is it, November 1992, they're still looking for her, and they come across Angela Barrasso. And I believe she was out on a bike ride in a canal in the area of Brandy.
Okay.
So now they found this body. I believe they found Angela. They found her body, and then they found her head further down the canal. Mm-hmm. So Shannon, I believe they're not very descriptive with what happened to her. Mm-hmm. I believe they do confirm she was sexually assaulted, but they don't talk about what happened to her body and how. I think I saw one that said she was stabbed. One said she was choked. Did you come across?
My understanding was that like both of them were stabbed, but once again, I only looked at YouTube videos, so I'm not completely sure.
Right. I always want to ask people, because it's like any other case when you're researching, because it's older, there's so many articles mm-hmm. that both state the same thing. So you'll have like 4 common threads, but you don't know which one's true. Yeah. And that's the hard part. I know they continued to look for Brandy, and in 93, they found another body. Which one was that?
So there was like 3 in total?
Okay. 3 in total that they found.
I only heard of 2 connected to like the one guy.
Right. And when they last saw Brandy, the biggest part of that is when they last saw Brandy, she was 2 doors down from a man named Brian Patrick Miller. Brian Patrick Miller has had issues way before he ran into Brandy, or supposedly ran into mm-hmm. Brandy. Before any of those things, he actually has a violent, I think he tried to stab a girl in the early 90s that he was with. The police knew him already as someone that was troubled and had bad relationships. But the last time all the neighbors saw her, I think there were 2 reports, was she was standing outside or the door before Brian's house before then. However, a little girl that Kristen has now talked to as an adult, who still hasn't found her way to apologize. However, I'll let that go. As talked to as an adult, this girl told the police that no, Brandy didn't go to a book-a-thon. She was hanging out with her at a local little store. Yeah. So the police went, this is the last place she was. She wasn't at Brian Patrick Miller's
and then they completely abandoned the house thing.
They left it. Yeah, they completely decided we need to start looking this direction. Not that those searchers didn't knock on every door and talk to everybody and try to get in there, and the police, I mean, they did the best that they could to get around that neighborhood. But I know Kristen did reach out to her later on, and she just said, like, I was a kid, but I'm not going to apologize. Like, things are things. Yeah. And so I think a lot of people don't realize how many things like that happen in these mm-hmm. cases, and how that hurt this case so bad that we might have had a chance to recover her body. We might have had a chance to give closure, because that's what it comes down to, is we have 3 bodies now, because now we also have a new girl in 2014. Her last name is Celius, that they just connected to him through DNA. So we've now 3 positive through DNA, 92, 93, and I believe something like 2014 that they've connected. Right now, we have no clue where Brandy's body is. We know where it went. We're never going to get it
because it was a landfill, right?
Right. And the police sat her down and told her, we know exactly what happened to Brandy based on Brian Miller being in this location. Mm-hmm. Brian Patrick Miller in this location. But not only that, his ex-wife came forward and said that he confessed to her with every detail of how he abducted Brandy, pulled her, she knocked at that door, he pulled her in, killed her instantly there, and then kept her in his tub for a few days before he was able to dismember mm-hmm. her body and get it to a landfill. Had we not been pushed in the other direction by this young girl, who at the time she was a child, nobody is blaming this child that saw these lights and this camera and these police officers and wanted to be a part mm-hmm. of the attention. You can't blame a child for that. I understand that. But because of this situation, we missed out on the one thing that would have allowed us to ever prosecute, according to Arizona. Because Arizona is one of the ones that have won so many no body cases, but refused to move on Brandy or
Yeah,
Alissa
that's
Turney's
very odd
case.
to me. Because both of them have like so much evidence against the person that you think
So
like a no body
much.
case would be very easy in those two cases.
Right. I mean, you do have now everybody saying, okay, well, obviously Brandy's not missing. The police have done their investigation. You have someone admitting it. Well, now that he's been arrested, he doesn't want the death penalty. He's terrified of the death penalty. I had a lot of opinions about the death penalty. And, you know, I used to be like, you know, when they would arrest someone and they said, well, we want to get him back to the place safe, I'd be like, just kill him. Like, who cares? He's a horrible person, whatever. We know he did it. But now I've learned for victims, families, it's very personal to them as to whether they would want the death penalty or not, and how those, you know, I remember one time they thought that this guy had committed suicide, might be connected to the Delphi murders. And I said to a family of one of the victims I worked with, like, oh, I wonder if that would be closure. And she was like, no, not for me, because he would get away. She was like, but maybe for them it would be. It's something you only can give, only that victim's family can, each individual one. Some of them want death penalty, some of them want off the table. I don't know what I would do anymore.
I'm not sure either. I've gone back and forth on death penalty for a long time. And when I think like deeply into it, my main mindset is like, we don't have like the ability to make that decision, because I think it gives people a little too much of a God complex. But then there's like the horrible, like people who kill kids and all that. And then I'm like, well, I can't decide.
Right. Because you have, I can't think of the case, the man whose son was molested for years by the karate instructor.
Okay.
Famous case.
I can't think of it. But
and I can't think of his name. And the father shoots the man handcuffed as he's walking into court and kills him. And everybody says, why? And he says, because I can't let it happen to one more child. Like, he didn't just assault my child. My child's life is gone, and I'm not going to watch another child's life basically be taken away. He's breathing, he's living, but he took something from him he'll never get back. So in that one, there was part of me that was like, yes, like, because I have a child. I don't know if I'd be able to restrain myself if you hurt my child. I might. But then on the other side, do I kind of want them to suffer and sit and think about everything that they've done? You know, and have to live with that.
You really got to think deep into it, because there's good and bad on both sides.
There is. And so now, all of a sudden, Miller, he's willing to do anything he can not to get the death penalty. And another really interesting fact about him is his best friend is a crime journalist. I don't know if you saw that.
That's odd, but okay.
Yes. Yeah. And his friend even was the crime journalist that reported him to the police, that said, hey, you might want to look at my friend for this. Adrian Salinas. That's the last case. So he was like, we were at a party together just a few blocks away from this girl. I believe everything you're saying about who it could be and how it happened, or cross-referencing. Please check this guy out. And they're still friends. He still coordinates things for him as far as like who he can talk to. And I know Kristen has really wanted to talk to Miller, and he refuses to talk to her. She's tried to use, the relationship with the best friend, who she wasn't a very big fan of to begin with at the very beginning, because, hey, you're this dude's best friend. Like, I'm not sure how I feel about you, but she just wants to sit down and talk to him. Even if she can't sit down and have a conversation with Miller, to be able to have a conversation with his best friend to get some kind of closure. But right now, with him wanting it off the table, there is a chance as part of the plea bargain that we could get him to admit to responsibility for Brandy. Because Arizona says unless that happens, or we come up with new evidence, which I'm so sick of hearing if you come up with new evidence. How are we supposed to come up with new evidence?
Yeah, and it was a long time ago too. And
yeah, and we don't have the pieces. We have everything else, but we don't have this piece. Maybe this new attorney general, they have a new attorney general right now, will actually allow it to happen.
Hopefully.
I hope so too. I hope he's willing to talk about it. I mean, you have his wife, ex-wife confessing.
At first, didn't she think it was like a story or something, and she didn't take it seriously?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, because she said that he would tell these stories and these fantasies, and he even took out knives with her.
I heard that.
Yeah, so got very scary with her. I mean, everybody's their own person, but I don't know at what point you're like, whoa, there's something wrong in my relationship. I've always wondered that, like how you're married to BTK or you're married to, you have no clue.
Yeah, like it's not their fault, but.
And I'm not, right. And I'm not judging the women or the men that don't know in that situation, but I just don't know how you live with someone. There has to be something that pokes at them, that screams to them like, hey, like maybe this isn't all good or all right. I always wonder if they always secretly knew, whether they let themselves know or not, or whether they dealt with it.
Or they at least saw like some things that didn't fit. Like, they didn't completely know, but they were kind of like, there's something wrong with him or her here.
Like something just doesn't feel right. Or I would like to see a podcast on the other side of that. Like someone just study that.
That would be really interesting.
Like, interview. Because I know they've interviewed Bundy's ex-girlfriend, and I don't know if they're seeking to hold on to the person they love so much that they have a blind spot to what they're doing. It seems that's what it was for her, at least. She had kind of a blind spot because she wanted to be loved, but be a cool human interest study for sure. Oh, see, I'm already like formulating another podcast in my head. I'm like, wait. So what cases have you done recently?
I gotta think. I lose track so fast of what I've done.
I know.
This past...
You guys, you do a great job putting yours out. Like, you're...
This past week, or yesterday, I guess, I did the Springfield 3.
Springfield 3. Okay. Trying to remember who. I know you were working. The one I wanted to check in on with you was the milkshake. Or not the was it the ice cream?
Oh, the Austin, like the yogurt shop? Yeah.
Yes.
I did that one
the yogurt shop. Because I remember hearing that before. And that one is a really, like, how many people do you think were involved?
I think it was 2. Yeah. Because there are the reports of the 2 men at the booth for a long time, like before the store closed, and they were still there as the girls were cleaning up the shop. So it just seems they could have brought other people in or let other people in, but it was at least 2, I think.
Right.
Especially to contain 4 people at once.
That's my whole thing. I mean, I don't know. I think girls in general have this whole, I'm not going to leave my girlfriend. It's kind of like we're trained as children that you don't leave the other girl alone. You stick with her as much as you can, and you have a better chance. However, I was raised by a nurse mother who always told me, from as small as I can remember, she told me never to get abducted to the second location. Like, never get taken from your first. She was like, I don't care if they're coming for you out of the car, if they have a gun in your face, I want you to scream, I want you to yell, because if you get taken to the second location, I've lost you. And that was like something that was ingrained in my head as far as I can remember, as well as if you are with someone else, you stick with them because you have a better chance of survival if there's 2. But we're seeing more and more. Delphi murders aren't the only one where there were 2 girls and it didn't stop. And I think it always comes down to, instead of the one running away to get help, they can't leave that person. You can't, in that situation, I think we've all kind of been in those situations where a girlfriend's doing something that is not intelligent, that we're going to get in trouble with her, or she's putting herself in danger, and us staying is putting ourselves in danger. But I think we find ourselves doing that so much. But I feel like I don't know how 2 contained 4.
Yeah. Also, they were, like, one of them was really young, one of the girls, and the other 3, like, I'm not certain on the ages anymore, but none of them were, like,
Yeah,
none of them were
so many
over
facts.
18. So, and it was a long time ago. Yeah, so it
The
could have had an
authoritarian
effect
thing.
on them there.
Yeah, true.
Also, they had
Right. And that's something
so
I work hard.
they had guns.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
They had what? The guns? Yeah, the guns. And that, I wonder, I don't know. I just wonder if I would try to, I teach my daughter now, stay with your friends, back them up. But if the situation, if you can run away to get your friend help, or your friend can run away to get you help, it's better that at least one of you can run and get help, because even if something happens, at least we'll be able to get to you faster, solve it quicker. You know, this is what I tell my almost 8-year-old all the time. She's so funny. I'm using her room, and I was like, oh, because it's the only quietest room in the house. I was like, I'm going to use your room. She's like, fine, go talk murder in my corner.
Okay.
I was like, okay, babe. Yeah. I'm raising a cynical child. It's okay. Yeah, she's a little mini advocate in a sense. She knows Alyssa's name and DJ. Yeah, she's, I mean, 8-year-old appropriate details, of course, of each case. But yeah, she knows all their names, which is awesome. And she's always asking, like, did they catch them yet? Did they put them away yet? Like, so hopefully I'm raising another little advocate.
She'd be deeply ingrained into it, too.
Keep her eyes out on things. Oh my goodness. Well, we want to do cadaver dogs. Like, we want to get our own cadaver dogs and train them. She doesn't know, but I've been saving all of her baby teeth to use them to train our dogs. Because they say the best thing is to use, like, decaying. So, you know, I don't want to, and not to train it with decaying animal scent so that it never gets confused. So a lot of American, I guess, dog handlers trade them on decaying animal scents first, then human. So it's something that was something I got really intrigued into. I still feel like if Phoenix PD would put just a little bit of effort and care into it, that they could get a cadaver dog, or that we could, as a community, get a cadaver dog flown for, paid for out there on the ground. But they need to go with the police department with them if we find anything. I think Sarah would have a good chance of finding where Alissa is. I think she would have a great chance. I think these dogs are underused in a lot of the things that we do. And also something that drives me nuts is we always say a hunter discovered them, a hunter discovered them. When someone goes missing, can we just call all the freaking hunters and, like, have them take us wherever they're going to go? Because think about it. They always discover them. We should hook up with local hunters and just have a plan in action if a child goes missing, that you're going to take us to these remote areas that
they go
we wouldn't know of.
Like, none of us would ever think of. My dad and my grandpa were hunters for years, and, like, we'll still go up to the places they used to hunt, and we'll drive, like, 3 hours into the middle of nowhere. And they'll be like, there's this little hut over here, and they're like, if you walk a mile that way, there's this. And I'm like, how do you remember this? Like, you don't have this written down anywhere. Yeah.
Like, how do you know this? Right. And it's not, and a lot of those, it's funny because I was looking at some of the areas where at some point lakes in Arizona, man-made lakes, they're now called tanks now. So when you go to Google them or even try to research these areas that were lakes when they were hunting and, you know, kids and stuff like that, they're not on the map anymore, and there's no Google pictures or nothing. They're now called tanks. So you have to now know to look for these tanks, because these man-made lakes haven't been kept up and they've shrunk, and I don't know why they're called tanks. But yeah, it's super odd. But there's also hundreds and hundreds of miles of open like service roads that nobody takes, like old railroad service roads and stuff that nobody monitors, nobody takes. Honestly, until I paid attention to the Alissa Turney case, I didn't look at the desert the same way I do now. Now I look at it in a completely, I mean, I'm sure all of us that do true crime are like driving down the road and we're like, that's a place you could just, I wonder, all the time. Yeah, even my husband, like, we were driving through this national park today and he was like, I wonder how many times someone's just stopped and a body's just, he was like, because no one walks on this part. And I was like, first of all, you think like that, we need to have a conversation. Second of all, because Crime Junkies always says to have like a if I get murdered file. Well, this is part of my if I get murdered file. Call my husband. He might know where I'm at. Yeah. So apparently he's been learning. He's like, if I keep hanging out with you, I'll know how to dispose of the body, the good place to put it. He's like, what I've learned from you is basically make the body disappear.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Yeah, and that's really sad that that's honestly the truth. Yeah, because even with these no body cases that we have won or we've seen win, it's come down to, again, public pressure. And it's crazy. And I don't know if you've seen this case in Russia.
I don't
with
think
the three
so.
girls. So I only saw it on on BBC and NPR the other day. So these 3 young women being molested for years by their father, abused, molested. Their mother actually left when they were younger because he was abusing and molesting her so bad that she was going to die. So she left and he wouldn't let her take the girls. So he spent the next, I think they said 14 years torturing all 3 of these girls. So one night they got up and they killed him. And at first when Russia arrested them, they said, look, this is self-defense. We're going to go self-defense all the way. Well, now the court's saying,
really?
No, they had no right. Yeah, they're saying this couldn't be self-defense. There were other directions. So this was going all the way up to a few days before they were going to go in with this. And I mean, everything had been agreed upon by Russia, the court system. I don't understand how their court system works. So it's hard for me to understand really or explain how they got to that point. But from the basic ABC, write it in crayon knowledge that I can get from reading it was they had an agreement all the way up to right when they go into court. And then their magistrate or their court system goes, no, we're not going to take that anymore. It can't be a possible self-defense plea. And they're saying this case for Russia, if they're able to change these girls' cases right now and then prosecute them, it sets a new precedence for an already country that has no regard for women's safety, abuse. I remember they once talked about an article that Putin had put out that, you know, to the wives of Russia, that if you have bruises, you should be proud because that's your man showing love to you. So this is a country where these women are fighting for their own lives. And this is the man that runs it. I mean, it's a very true article. Anybody can go find it. It's much more disturbing than that. That was a nice way to put it. So I think it's important that the true crime community and just humans in general pay attention to this case, because Russia's a nightmare as it is, but it can set a precedence for other countries too, to say, well, they made that change. They decided, well, that's not going to be self-defense anymore. What else were these? Yeah, that's absolutely
self-defense. 14 years. Yeah.
Exactly. 14 years. And the mother had apparently called and tried to get them out and had reported it. And again, it's just a different country than we're used to, where they were like, okay, a woman's complaining. Let's move on. Or, you know, and it didn't get handled. And so now this case really could change a huge course. And these girls, I mean, I don't know what we can do, or what anybody can do, because it's not our country. We can't go protest and, you know what I mean? So but I think it's something we all need to pay attention to. And maybe if we bring enough attention to it,
I would hope so.
Happen. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I feel hopeless
ridiculous
with that one. Yeah. It just feels so helpless with them. I can't imagine that the rest of their lives will be spent. They were tortured, and now the rest of their lives
for trying to get out of the first situation.
Not right.
It doesn't. Yeah, I don't understand that.
Right. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I'm not too good at looking at international cases, just because the ones I end up finding the most information on are from the U.S. But yeah, I would like to get more into international ones, but I don't know how any of their justice systems work. So I find it difficult.
That's the hard part. Yeah. Because there's some big cases happening. What are they? The Clairemont Trials. Basically, they had their same serial killer man came around. He dressed as an electrician, drove a car that looked like a cab. I believe it's Australia. Drove a car that looked like a cab and was picking up these women and killing them for years. And they just got him in court. And it's a massive case there. And it's kind of changing their whole system too and how they look at things. They had to change the way they presented evidence for this case for the first time. They had to, the details that they show as far as their slides of like crime scenes and things like that, to them for the first time, these were so gruesome and so raw that they actually blocked the jury from seeing it and only let like 1 or 2 jury members come forward as a representation because it was too raw and the family didn't want them to see it. So it kind of has changed the way that they're doing their trial systems too. So I think there's a lot of things as far as international crime and more as how it gets prosecuted that we all should try to pay attention to when we can, which is impossible because we have so many here that I basically have a Google alert on the ones that I've discovered that I want to keep track of, you know, outside of, but I can't invest in them like I can these cases, of course. Because it's easier to reach out to families here. And again, like you said, understanding the justice system in another country. Oh my goodness. Absolutely difficult. Because I noticed Canada, like,
I always found that kind of weird. Like, I understand jail is supposed to be like rehabilitating, but I think that's if they're non-violent offenders, in my opinion.
Right. Like, they never go in with a life sentence. They're like, we're going to see if we can actually rehabilitate this guy that's killed like 10 people. Like, we're not going to give you life. We're going to just see. And I agree with you. I'm all about rehabilitation. I think that's where our prison system fails. You know, we have people in for, I would say, even just robbery, not armed robbery, just basically burglary, went into a house that was unlocked. They break in, they steal something, they're serving 5 years while the child molester gets out in 3 months.
Make any
comes
sense.
Back, gets out in 6 months. Exactly. It's called it's called life in installments. That's what they do. And unfortunately, they get to come out again and again and again. It doesn't matter how many children they molest or what they do. It takes them basically killing a child
to stay there.
To stay there.
Not the right method to use. And I saw an article the other day, and it was talking about the Green River Killer. And you know how all the COVID-19 is like making people try and get out of jail early and all that? So the article was like, he's trying to get out of jail early. I was like, we should be letting people out who have like petty drug charges or petty burglary charges, not violent offenders.
I was like, are you kidding me?
No.
Like,
there's so many people who they could let out before those people.
So many. And then you can space it out then. You can keep these violent offenders safe. I mean, I'm not saying that they deserve to suffer some awful, I mean, some of them do, not gonna lie. But, you know, these COVID deaths are god awful. I couldn't imagine a soul having to suffer that. I think you can do it safely if you let out the people with the little drug charges and the little burglary charges, or we have people that are sitting there for late fines.
And that's ridiculous. Let them out so people don't get more sick or more people don't get sick. And then keep the people who will actually hurt others behind bars.
They've released a lot of serial rapists. I don't know.
I have not.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen a lot of those articles pop up, and that's frightening. Baltimore, you know, I live in Maryland, very close to Baltimore. It's in DC. And so when you live in Maryland, or I would say either Jersey, New York, whatever, we're kind of in this clump because I can go from one end of Maryland all the way to the other end of New York, probably in 7 hours. And then Jersey and Delaware and everything else are between. Within a day, we typically jump in and out of 3 or 4 states if on a normal non-COVID craziness thing. So we're kind of like those states were all melded with. Unfortunately, those states also have a higher number of serial rapists and a higher number of jailed ones that are being released in the areas. No.
Yeah, I live in
Milwaukee,
really Wisconsin, and it's a huge city, but like I don't keep up to date on any of the crime statistics because I kind of feel safer if like I don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. I can understand that.
Yeah.
I was in Madison for a few years, back and forth. Yeah, Wisconsin is lived in North Dakota for a little bit too.
Yeah.
You just feel safer because you know your neighbors. They make an effort to kind of know everybody. And that's why I moved back home to Maryland. We're on the very quiet side. We're away from we're close to the cities, but we're away. Nice. There's a big bridge between us, which is great. Oh, it's super nice. But I remember the difference. Like when I was living in Chandler, Arizona, close to Phoenix, we were running that rat race and you didn't have time to know your neighbors. You didn't want to know your neighbors. And here everybody kind of watches out for each other.
In the middle of the city. So it's not as nice as being in like the suburbs of the city, but we at least know people like directly around us. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm from Kenosha, which is like right on the border of Wisconsin and Illinois. It's in like...
Yeah, you guys have a bunch of crazy names. Yeah. I have a girlfriend, I wonder if she's watching, Kelsey. She lives in Wisconsin. I don't know the town because you all have a bunch of ridiculous names, which I remember from living in North Dakota. We had a bunch of ridiculous names too. But she used to, at work, when we were bored, she used to write down the names of Wisconsin towns and then see if we could say them and laugh at us. Like that was like the best game.
Pronunciation. It's like you have to learn it. Otherwise, you're never going to know how to say it. And it's difficult.
Right. And it doesn't
not
come out the way it's written ever. Like, no. You have like silent letters that aren't even in there. It's not fair. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have to grow up with it. It's like its own language. It's crazy. Do you guys say for cute?
I don't know what that is.
For cute?
No.
Have you ever heard that saying? Okay. So my sister stayed in North Dakota a lot longer. And her friend from Wisconsin, they always say that they're going to get a bag instead of a bag. They're going to toast their bagel instead of their bagel. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's toasted. And they're going to get their, and they get their boots on. But something both her and her girlfriends from Wisconsin notice is they say fur cute. Like when something's cute, they say fur.
Okay. Yeah, I don't do that, but I might pay attention to that more now.
You haven't heard that one? Yeah. See if you hear it. It cracks me up every time I hear it. Or we make fun of my sister all the time. She's like, can I get a bag?
Yeah.
A bag? A what?
It's interesting how people from like different areas say things completely differently. Like in the last year, I guess, I've done a lot of traveling and I went to like California and we went like from Wisconsin all the way down to Florida, and just hearing like the different kinds of ways people say like the most common words is hilarious to me. Because it really does.
Right. It throws you off. Like you're like, what? Yeah.
Okay.
Here they say water instead of water. So you can always tell if someone's from Pennsylvania, New York, North Dakota, Jersey, they're going to say water. It's like their big thing. Toilets.
Okay.
And they need oil for their car, Yeah, my poor husband, he was all, what are these people saying? Because he's not from here. He's like, where did you bring me? Like Mayberry? What is that?
So I had a case I wanted to ask you about, but I'm going to have to go grab my notebook quick. So give me 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, go for it. All by myself. Just kidding. Oh, it's my daughter's room. Isn't it cute? I mean, I decorated it, but it's cute. Hi, Sherry. I love you more. I miss your face. So y'all can't have me and Sherry just doing a live because it would just be ridiculous conversation. And I've done really well. I haven't sworn. Look at me. Y'all, I should get a cookie.
Okay, there's actually 2 cases. So the first one is the Oklahoma City Butcher. Have you heard anything about that? So I posted something about the Kansas City Butcher, I think. And yeah, and someone messaged me and they were like, have you heard of the Oklahoma City Butcher? So I had to start looking it up. And it is a serial killer who was active in the late 70s and early 80s. And he had 3 Native American victims who were all living on the streets. And at least 2 of them were linked to like sex work. And I've never heard of it. And I thought that was weird. And if you look it up, there's only like 2 articles on it. Yeah.
Oh, now I'm super intrigued. Okay. I'm going to have to take
one
that
post
one
on
up.
Reddit.
Did you find anything on Reddit?
And it wasn't that long, but then from there it can link you to like 3 blog posts, but there's nothing like really talking in depth about it. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
They linked it because like obviously the profiles of the victims were similar, and then all of them were dismembered in the same way, and all the sexual organs were missing. They were all found within.
Were they found in the same areas?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he used the same dumping ground.
Okay.
I'm in a beanbag chair. Hold on. Sorry. I'm sinking.
The first one, there was a few men, like utility workers, working on something in the area, and they were all on break. So they thought, like, let's go look at this abandoned house that was right next to them. So they went in and they found a severed head in a popcorn bucket, like a big popcorn bucket. And then they found a woman's thigh just laying on the ground. And that's how like the first one was discovered. And then there's a 4-year gap. And then the second one is discovered by a group of kids playing basketball who then see a dog running down the street carrying a human head. So that's traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah, those poor children.
And then I don't have it written down how the third one was found because I guess I didn't get that far. But yeah, it was very interesting.
That's crazy. I got to write that down. Oklahoma City. Because that is not the first thing that comes to mind.
I mean,
there's Oklahoma City.
I know I wrote down like all the other tragedies that happened in like Oklahoma or around there. Because there's like the Girl Scout murders that happened. Yeah, those ones. So.
Those, oh my Lord. Oh,
mm-hmm. My
kid will never go to camp. I'm sorry, it sucks. But because of those, my kid will never go to camp.
When I find things like that, I'm like,
it was awful.
I've gone to way less secure camps than that. And then I'm like, ooh.
That's what I'm saying. Me too, as a child. I can think of like being out in the cabin with like a 15-year-old supervisor. That what were they gonna do? Like absolutely nothing. And if you watch what is it? The movie with Lindsay Lohan. Yeah. She's playing twins, Parent Trap. If you watch Parent Trap now and they send them out to a cabin 2 miles away from the main cabin by themselves, I'm like, as a parent, I'm like losing it. And as a true crime writer, I'm like, like the whole time. I
even thought about that with like the Delphi murders. Because we used to, back in high school, we used to go to this place that like you had to, there was a park and then you had to walk down the train tracks. And if you jumped down after you were like a mile away from the park, it was like just a big graffitied tunnel. But then you would walk into like the woods. And now I think back on that and I'm like, because we had been there before and there were like, obviously some kids who had some something wrong had been there because there were like dog heads and stuff. And like, I found a problem with it because I like animals, but I wasn't like, oh, we're not safe. I was like, let's just keep walking. I was like,
right.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, being so young. I
Mhm.
because I was a runaway. I was like everywhere. I went all these places. But I remember running away at one time, and I was with this girl, Patty, and I was 16. She was 17, and we're driving down the Jersey Turnpike, and we see this van. Me sees this van that pulls up, and there's these two older guys in it, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come hang out?"
What?
And you know what my dumbass did? Yeah, of course I do. So we got in their car, we hung out, and luckily we got out. But now I look at it and I'm like,
Yeah.
so many things could it, like, how am I here? I just randomly stepped into it, but I don't think we recognize danger at that age in the appropriate way. I don't think you can, I don't think you can train it either or teach it to recognize it. I mean, I'm constantly telling my daughter, pay attention to this. Like, this little kid came up behind her at her school, didn't say anything to her, this boy. Walks up behind her, takes a jump rope, starts tying her up and giggling. Yeah. And I was like, okay, little serial killer. Like, and the teacher was like, well, I don't, you know, we're going to take this very seriously.
Like, do you know what I research all day? Like,
yeah, like the kid is like humming and singing and tying my daughter up. And she's like asking him to stop, and he's not responding. He's still humming while tying her up.
Yeah.
First of all, what? Like, I sent her to school. Is there not teachers? What's happening here? And then this kid is just humming a song. And then I come to find out he's hit a bunch of the little girls at school, and always hits the little girls at school. Maybe we should pay attention to the little Bundy
like,
Junior
no matter what age you are.
Problem. Right. And my daughter was like, he wouldn't stop humming. And I'm like, she's like, I don't know why that made me feel really scared. And I was like, listen to that feeling.
Like, so many of the cases I've been looking at, like the people after their loved one goes missing or is killed, they're like, I had that gut feeling, like, when this happened. I'm like, you should always listen to that gut feeling. Even if it's wrong, it's better than.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, be wrong, look like a fool. You know, that's what I tell my daughter. Be wrong, look like a fool, act a fool. We'll bail you out.
I'm trying to find this. Yeah, I'm trying to find it now. I got multiple notebooks of stuff.
Me too. And I grabbed the wrong one. That's why I'm like so off on the Brandy one, because she has so many.
I have more questions on that one, so we can get back to that in a second. But have you heard of the Sandra Bland case from Texas? Okay, so she was 28 years old, and she was pulled over on a traffic stop, but it was a pretextual traffic stop. So basically, they stopped her, and because they suspected she had some other crime involvement. So they stopped her on something minor and pulled her over to arrest her. And so they arrested her that day. And she did have like a ton of unpaid fines and a bunch of tickets and all that. But 3 days after she was arrested, she was found hanged in her jail cell. But basically, people are saying she was already deceased when her mugshot was taken, because one of the cops even like confessed to like tackling her or something along those lines to where she hit the ground, but they still say it was a suicide. Yeah, I haven't gotten into it.
No. I gotta look at that one. I've never heard that one. But those listed suicides, those piss me off because we have way too many of those. And that's not even something that we should be having to fight. There's absolutely no reason. We have enough wrong. We have enough things that we have to fight. And these suicide claims are racking up. It's terrifying when you actually start Googling the statistics of this. I mean, I know we have, and not just that, but accidents. They'll say it's accidents. Like Kendrick, you work with. Kendrick, we have Tanner is another one. I know you see his mom out there like, come on, guys, pay attention to this case. Yes, and it screams that this child, and I don't care how old he is, I don't care, he is somebody's child. This child was left to die by people. Yeah,
and both
that should have
they were both ruled positional asphyxia, I believe. And that's not.
They say his short neck and his build.
When you're looking at cases, like positional asphyxia is only ruled that after everything else is counted out. So it's kind of like the catch-all thing. Like, we don't know what happened, so there you go. Right. And
we're gonna say that we're gonna go with this.
It really doesn't have too much scientific backing to it.
Right. And I am so sick of seeing these. And I don't know what we can do, but I do think there needs to be more awareness to them.
Me
DJ's
too.
case is the first one that brought attention to me that was something that was even possible. And then you have Christian. I'm always butchered.
The one with the A.
Name. It's really long.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yes. Yep. You have him, and his case is mind-boggling too, that they could have even said it was suicide at all. Even just walking in on that scene, I feel like Whitley's more guilty than we want to talk about, or that she even wants to talk about.
Yeah, you would.
I don't know how you're in a room and don't hear a gunshot like that. I mean, in a house, there's absolutely no way. I mean, grown up around guns, we have people that shoot guns, we live on a farm. There's just no way that you didn't.
Yeah.
Unless he had a silencer, but there was no silencer on it when they found it. So, and the way that the blood pooled in his legs, the way that he was over, I mean, there were so many things that stuck out to me and I wonder how many families don't know to fight back.
Yeah, because they just don't know how
classified. No clue. I don't know if you saw today. They just released something on Brittany Murphy. They think her husband killed her.
I always kind of figured it wasn't.
I did not
just
know that.
A suicide, or was she an overdose victim? Is that what they said? Okay.
They first said she died of pneumonia. That was the big statement. And that he died because he was so grief-stricken that he couldn't live without her. And he followed shortly after. But what I read today was that the mom and him were probably sleeping together. And that they took her out for her money together. And I don't know how I got so floored by that. Like, I don't know where that came from. But they released it today, which is kind of interesting. And there's like a Twitter feed, hashtag Brittany Murphy. I think that they're going to do this documentary and release it.
I've heard things about
am I the only one that did not know that?
Like, death being suspicious. But it's not as out there as like Kurt Cobain or other famous people like that. Okay. I have suicide.
To ask, what's your opinion on Kurt Cobain?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not completely, at least.
Do you think Courtney's innocent?
No.
I don't think so either. And my husband was so mad at me about that one because he loved Kurt Cobain. He looked like Kurt Cobain when we were younger. That's probably why I married him. But he was like, he's like, there's no way. And I was like, no, if you really look at they didn't report those things back then. Nobody really, I mean, you had people that were like, there's no way he did this. He was, at the top of his career. And we do have people at the top of their career, top of life, commit suicide. Very familiar with that. I had lost a friend that you would have, for people that knew her really well, we knew it was coming, but people that didn't know her, but saw her on the outside and the life she lived and how gorgeous she was, you would have never known. And so I'm not discrediting that by any means, but I don't believe he was in that place at all. And then they do have a interesting Netflix. There's 100 documentaries on him.
Okay.
But Netflix has one where they talk to Courtney's ex that she was trying to make a star like Kurt Cobain. And he was like,
yeah, that's kind
he
of
was convinced she was going to kill him. Yeah, it's really a good one to watch. And like, because he didn't shoot to stardom, that's why she kind of ditched him and went to Kurt. And he kind of says like, thank God, because I feel like it would have been me. So I don't know, as a mother, to be able to take the father of your child out of this world, for that hasn't hurt your child. I can't. She
could have had something a lot deeper mentally.
Yeah. But I'm always interested because some people are very defensive of Courtney. They're like, no way, Courtney didn't do it. And I'm like, have you looked at her? Like, look her in the eyes. Like, just sit down and look her in the eyes. You can, some people, you can see
totally
it. It's just
tell
so,
on that one.
like Michael Turney.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Yeah. Can totally tell. I don't know if you've heard about my most recent case. I'm doing it in parts because it's massive.
I just talked to her.
So her name's Diane Francis. She's just like,
I'm going to have.
Did you get to talk to
I'm going to have
Sherry?
that episode out in like June sometime because I'm a few weeks out on episodes. But yeah, I'm going to do that.
So excited.
I haven't looked into it yet.
I am so excited. What do you think of
You
her
can
case?
tell me about it, but I haven't looked into it myself yet.
Okay. So her sister or her daughter explains it so perfectly. Sherry says it's like a plate of rainbow colored noodles.
Okay.
And you can't find the beginning to start to be able to tell the story. It's her mom just vanishes. I mean, she's gone. And her mom isn't someone that we weren't able to keep track of. Sherry's very honest about who her mom is, who she was. Her mom had an addiction problem. And with addiction problems, you meet different people and they aren't always the best. She's very attracted to guys that weren't the best for her. But she wanted her babies with her. And she brought her babies everywhere she could until finally the state said, like, look, we've had too many incidents of, you're not showing that you're not able to take care of them. We need to take them away. Whenever we take them away, you come back and try to take them. Like, she loved them so much that even when they got put in these other homes, she would show up and demand them back. Like, these are my kids. You can't keep them. But then that was putting the kids in a position where they could have got sent and taken away from the family that she was trying to work with. So it got worse and worse and worse. And eventually, this is just a short story because there is no way to tell this story without a miniseries, HBO. But seriously, the kids get put in foster care away from the state, moved away from the family. Kind of the best thing to kind of just give it a break. Let's see if we can get these kids adjusted somewhere else. Diane we know she's out and about because she's getting arrested for trespassing, being in other people's cars, drunk and disorderly, some other events. So we can track her all the way until 2005, hold on. I'm getting all my dates mixed up.
Okay.
Where she just disappears. She vanishes. She gets arrested for drunk and disorderly at the hotel, or for trespassing at the hotel. She gets arrested. Thanks, boo. 11/28/2005. Love you, Sherry.
Okay.
So she gets arrested 11/28/2005. She spends the night in jail, gets released. We never see her get arrested again.
Okay.
We never see her get pulled over. We never see her with someone else. Supposedly, she gets a call, or she calls in 2006. She calls her dad. Dad doesn't answer. The girlfriend, Rita, does. It sounds like she's not sober. So dad, says, I can't deal with this right now. So they don't talk to her. It's kind of hard to confirm those times and dates because of everybody's distance and time. But if we take that there was that call, if we just positively say, sure, she called in 2006 around, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, asking for financial assistance. If she was constantly getting arrested, and I can say easily every 6 months for years, we have an arrest record with her. Where is she? What why don't we have an arrest record? Why hasn't she contacted these babies that you had to force her away from the second they were 18 and they were free? More importantly, while Sherry and Jessica were in foster care, why was nobody looking for her? Like, nobody. It wasn't reported. She wasn't reported missing. Her family noticed she wasn't there. She wasn't calling, but they weren't calling the police and looking for her. There's no official missing report till 12 years later is arrested.
No, that's okay.
Or 12 years later, sorry, I got distracted. I'm reading messages. So 12 years later, John, an ex-boyfriend, picks up the phone and decides to just call the police department and say, you know, it's been 12 years since I've seen my ex-girlfriend and her kids, and I'm kind of concerned. Okay. And the officer takes the report, but doesn't take it seriously. And so we do have an official report. Sherry's had to do some magic to make that work and to get, you know, some officers on this case. She's very lucky she has Cogburn. She does have a great relationship with him. But it's also not his district or his area to look for Diane. And until we come up with evidence that points him in a direction to look for her, we're stuck. And when Sherry herself called to make the police report, they laughed at her. Like, the police literally laughed at her and wouldn't make this report for her mother. So she is in NamUs. Thank you to her relentlessness. If I go missing, call Sherry and Sarah Turney, please. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure I'll be found. But yes, this girl is like a bulldog looking for a bone. Like, she's not going to stop. And the hardest part, I think, for her that she sees is her family is not in her back with this. They're not at her back for it. She really struggles going back and forth with that because she loves them and she wants to understand, you know, I think all of us have known an addict and loved an addict. So we all understand what comes with that. And some of us have to walk away to protect our hearts, but not looking for your child. I can't connect that. I can't put that together. And the dad was David, her father, so much in love with her. He writes this testimony that will make anybody cry about talking about how she disappeared. He also sings the song that she just sent me. Do you know, like, Conway Twitty country music, like old country? Like, he sings like that. It's the most, and he writes, he re-sang and recorded the song for, I believe this is for Diane for her 16th birthday. And it'll have you on the floor crying because you just can hear how much he loves her. Yet she's gone for years and you're not looking for her. I mean, he's looking for her in the aspect of he does the things that he can do to look for her. But how did we get to this point where she's so gone? And, you know, Sherry and Jessica had these adults that were supposed to be taking care of this and taking care of her family. And now it's just all dropped on Sherry. I mean, and when you look at these police reports, the last police report that we have with her, she was in a room with a husband. When the police show up, it says that she's in a room with a husband who chooses not to be named.
So that should be very suspect.
Diane was never married. So, yes, and he doesn't want to be named. Now, we can say, okay, he's in a hotel room with a girl. Okay, maybe he doesn't want to be named. Maybe he's married to someone else. He doesn't want to be named. She maybe said that he was the husband because she'd been caught trespassing on this hotel before and told, you know, she can't come in. And the security guards know her because she is 90 pounds, maybe soaking wet. And they had to tackle her and mace her and hold her down to get her out. She is a freaking firecracker. Like, and I don't know how to explain it, but if she was like 10% of her daughter, when you meet Sherry, you talk to her, Sherry walks into a room, the entire room stops. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you say. When Sherry walks in, the room notices. And it's not just her extreme beauty, but she has this aura that I think her mom had, because you
Uh-huh.
talk to her mother about,
Okay.
or you talk to her friend's mother or mother's friends when she was growing up. And they just talk about how amazing she was and how you just wanted to be around her. You
just go
wanted
missing.
to talk to her. So how does someone that vibrant disappear? It's an amazing story. And I've been telling her, I'm like, get it to whatever. I'm so sick of podcasters. And that's something, can we all just be honest?
Yeah.
Can podcasters stop being like, oh, well, someone told that story, so I'm not going to do it? Because first of all, if you're here to help these victims, then your perspective
or maybe someone who like subscribes to you doesn't subscribe to me, and so by everyone covering it, we reach like a way wider audience.
Way wider, and it's changing constantly. You'll notice when you're working with Sherry, like there are days that we get up and so much stuff has happened. Like we've cried, we've laughed.
Yeah.
And these are just changes in the case that'll blow your mind. And, you know, she's had people saying that they are holding her mom hostage. I mean, just some crazy things. And then we'll have just these, she'll get the poor girl gets all these messages in her inbox from all sorts of people that are like, well, you look like your mom, you know? And so she has to deal with all this stuff to filter through. Yeah. But man, she's tough as nails too. So wherever Diane is or whatever happened to Diane, I'm going to get her answers. She needs them, because there's just
especially
no
if people
way
talk about her like that.
Disappeared off
like she
the
just
face
captivated everyone and everything. Those people don't just go missing and no one notices.
No, there's no way. I mean, and the problem is because, you know, she hung out with a lot of other addicts. We've got a lot that were lost to ODs and have died just at, you know, younger ages of complications from the drug abuse and things like that. Ones that have disappeared. And some of them, I honestly don't think they remember or know where they were at some of these points in times. So it's a very intriguing case that I think everyone, and I keep telling her all the time, like, let every single bit of work that people do for you just be a blueprint for the next step. Like, so I'm so happy to see another podcaster reaching out and talking to her. I wish we would do that more. I've talked to families of victims who said, well, I was going to be on this person's podcast, but they found out I did this person's podcast, and so then they just dumped me. And I don't understand why you wouldn't take an attempt to tell it. Or Brandy's case, they don't want to tell Brandy's case because they're like, okay, well, we know what happened to her. She just didn't get charges. It's not compelling. It's not left open. What do you mean it's not compelling? It's not left open. It's a huge open case. And if you're here for justice and you're here for the victim, then your job's not done yet. This story needs to be told and shared by as many people as we can. So I know I've come across that. I've come across some other podcasters that are just kind of, so I'm so glad there's so many out there like you that are like, let's get together
that's
and
most
work on something. Because
I feel like most of the podcasters
kind of what we're here to do.
I talk to on Twitter and stuff are like this. They're not, but I know what you mean. There's some people who are just, it's what they do isn't okay. Amazing. They're just in it for things other than justice and other than victim advocacy.
Right. And I mean, I know there's one out there that has hurt a few of the people that I personally have worked with that, you know, and I'm not, that's up to them to release that stuff when it comes around. You know, I'm glad to see that, you know, that podcaster isn't as popular or isn't doing as much to these people as they were. But I've definitely learned it can be a very mean world, that they take advantage of the families and the victims, and watching them put their hearts out like that in their whole lives is frustrating for someone to take advantage of. I tell Sherry all the time, I don't know. I mean, if someone I love was missing, I think I would do everything I could, but imagine putting your entire life for everyone else to speculate while you're searching for the one you love, but they're stopping and speculating your life and your involvement. You did. I can't I don't know if I'd be brave enough to do that, like these women have,
Yeah.
and these men. And
I look at
I
all
just
the
don't know if
cases
I
of,
wouldn't
like,
just curl into a ball.
obviously
Like,
unsolved stuff,
it's
but
amazing.
I always think, like, what would I do if someone really close to me was missing and they were never found, or they were killed and we never had, like, the ending or the justice for them? And I have no idea. I feel like I wouldn't be able to handle that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I wonder if it's because we write it, and maybe that's our way to process it, is writing it and talking about it. And I think we can see it from that standpoint, but we definitely can't put ourselves in those shoes. I think these families and these loved ones are amazing, and they don't get enough credit for, I think they focus too much on the killer and the gruesome details sometimes. My main goal was to start out with, we need to bring more awareness to what these families go through every single day. I mean, they still lose other loved ones or jobs, or are going through this pandemic that we're going through, and they have someone out there that they don't even know. Like Sherry says, what if Diane's in a homeless camp? Is she okay? Is she getting fat? Is she coughing? Is she warm? I mean, did she eat today? Those are like,
and I can't fathom that, because I text like almost everyone in my family, like, daily, like, hey, how are you? Are you okay in quarantine and all that? And like not being able to do that, I don't think I could handle that mentally.
Good. No, because they get up every day no matter what is going on, and it's like, okay, the world's falling apart, literally falling apart, but this person I'm missing is still missing, or this person I'm fighting for their justice I just don't. And with the courts closing down right now for everything, and that's a frustrating part, is, some of these cases have finally come to court. We finally got our chance. We finally got our turn, and now they're delayed.
Yeah. That doesn't make sense.
Or they're getting released to go home and wear an ankle monitor, which is not enough. No, like they say, oh, well, the ankle monitor system. First of all, let's not talk about how the ankle monitor system is a complete joke. But we have 2 runaways right now that are active that cut off their ankle monitors and are running around, and we haven't found them.
No,
so do I feel secure with a serial rapist and a murderer with an ankle bracelet sitting at home? No.
Yeah. Speaking of like,
so yeah, it's
smaller cases, I guess, where their family's advocating for them. Have you heard of Taylor McAllister? Her parents are running the Twitter. I feel like I've heard
Taylor. Does she have any Twitter that's like very...
In all honesty, I didn't read through the case yet. I'm going to be doing her case beginning of July. But I did want to get that name to you just in case you haven't heard of it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I think I've seen it, and I wanted to look into hers too. I wish I want to say, like, I mean, we are in quarantine. We probably have more time than we give ourselves, but I wish I had more time to take these cases. Something I wanted to challenge people to do, like, just put your name in Google and type missing, your own name, missing or murdered. And find the first case that pops up. And if it's unsolved, tweet it, share it on Facebook, just kind of, because it's a very important point that people don't talk about. We wouldn't know about Kendrick or Alissa or Brandy or Diane if there weren't people shouting and screaming their names and begging for them to be heard. And I think when you're at home and you are just interested in something else, take your name, Google it, see. And if it's a case, I mean, share that kinship with your name and just share it. Like, I think I have other podcasters and other writers call me and say, hey, have you come across a new case? I love you all, but have you Googled it? Like, have you just Googled missing in your neighborhood? Like, that's something I think a lot of them should start. Use your name, use your neighborhood, like the year you were born, missing cases, 1980. But so like, I mean, I think I appreciate people like you that get out there and they're like, you know what, let's just Google this. Like, let's find, I think Nancy's one of my favorites. She always has got cases that I wouldn't typically know about or hear about. Like, she is out there finding those lower grade ones that aren't getting the attention. And I love that I love cases like that.
Yeah.
I don't even think there's ones that aren't big enough for full podcast episodes, but I think that's where it's going to
You
take
should
people,
look
like,
into
just
the case
checking
of
them out,
Jody
tweeting them, sharing them.
Huizentrout. Not sure how to pronounce the last name. I can send you a link to it. But I got a message from someone on Instagram, and they were like, have you heard of this case?
Yeah.
I wrote like a Reddit post on it. So I went and read it, and she lived in Michigan, and there was this huge like cherry festival going on, and she was with her husband at a bar, and she was going to ride her bike home the few blocks to her house. And because her husband had been playing with his band at the bar, he had to drive. So he was going to drive home. And he got home first, which he thought was odd because she left before him. But on her way home, she was on like the main road in their little town. And she was in a hit and run. So she got hit, she got dragged 2 blocks, and then the car left. But it doesn't seem random because it's like shown somehow that she was super close to the curb. So someone's not just driving right there. And 2 times before she got hit,
someone took the effort.
There were 2 like attempted hit and runs or something like that, or they actually got hit, but then like it wasn't that bad, on people who looked just like her. So a lot of people think they were trying to target Jody, and they like finally got her because there haven't been ones like that since. And it was always the same type of car. Yeah.
So it seems more of a hate than a sexual attempt.
Yeah, and
like
there's
went wrong.
I can't find a lot on it. I wrote
a
blog post on it,
No,
but there's just not a lot on the case, no matter like how hard you search. But it is a case, I think, yeah, people should learn about that one though.
They're frustrating. Yeah, because somebody obviously, I wonder if there's any more that have happened or connected. And I think that's something too, is when we don't talk about these cases, I think it does take people to talk about them and recognize that they're connected and to see that there's something else going on. I did one for Kathy Galati not too long ago. In 1872, she was abducted from the street. We don't know the scene of where she was, but she was brutally raped multiple times, beaten to death, and then they dumped her body, but they drove over her body 4 times before leaving.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a very like hate-filled crime, definitely. And a man 30, 40 years later comes into a police station in Florida and admits to being part of her murder. Then recants. Because and then of course they can't do anything because he's recanted, but now they can start looking at this guy like, okay, well, where was this guy? And he was actually living in an apartment rented by Kathy's parents above their house. So they were able to connect this guy pretty quickly. They do think it wasn't just him. They think, I mean, there's so much more to it. Like Kathy's father was on the jury of this guy, Ed Duquette, who they say is the one who came in and admitted to being involved and then recanted. 2 months before Kathy is murdered and abducted, Kathy's father sits on a trial for Ed Duquette's father, and he is charged for statutory rape. And Ed Duquette, the father, says guilty plea. And then when he comes home and realizes, hey, this is this dude's son, he kicks him out. Then 2 months later, Kathy's brutally murdered. And he has connections to, before he came up to that area, he had sexually assaulted a young girl in California, same age, looked a lot like Kathy, same build. But they think along the way, there are some Reddit posts that show along the way there are familiar murders and of these girls within these areas. Yeah. And only am I seeing it connected, very well connected on these Reddit posts, very well connected, but nowhere else talks about it. And you'll see it on like sleuth pages, and you can kind of see this connection, but nobody's looking at it. And it makes you wonder, did the police check that connection? Is that something? Because Kathy's sister still believes there were other people involved. And maybe are these other people, if not involved in Kathy, were they involved because they knew Duquette with these other girls in these close areas? So,
yeah,
but
that's
no
sad.
one's gonna look. We can write posts until we're blue in the face, and that's just kind of the end of it. Yeah. And so I wonder sometimes if, because there's so many cases out there, that there's just no way to connect it. I know we have these computer systems and we put in all this information.
Yeah, we are.
And
that's one of the last question I'll ask you is back to the Brandy Myers case. So if I got like the timeline of events right, the guy who they suspect killed her, he was in like Washington or something for a while. And
he was in Washington, early on.
Were they wondering if
late 80s, early 90s?
Maybe
early
contributed
90s, like
to some murders there?
And California.
Okay.
Yeah, he spent some time in California. I think we might have more in Arizona too, to be honest. Because yes, we found 2 in the canal, but that's not his normal MO. And if you look at the patterns and the things, he changes. So he was I believe, in my opinion, and I know opinions are not welcome all the time in true crime, but in my opinion, I believe that he was a killer of opportunity. I don't think it was as premeditated, or I think he had a type. I definitely think he was attracted to a certain kind of female and a body build and almost like Brandy was just so sweet and innocent and not aware of the dangers. And I think that seems the type that he was attracted to. So I just feel like there could be so many and we wouldn't be able to connect them again. There wouldn't be that connection because, I mean, I do see the stabbing because he tried to stab the girl in 2000. I got to remember what time. I think it's 2014, something like that. Salinas. The reason they caught that they've caught onto Salinas, I guess he gave a coworker a ride home and he tried to stab her, and that's how this whole thing kind of kicked off. I'm intrigued to know because I don't think they've ever showed a picture of this coworker that reported him, but if she looked like Brandy and Shannon and Angela and so it's interesting that he did change how he disposed of bodies throughout times and also how he abducted these women. So, and I don't know if they ever said if they were able to figure out where Angela
we might not have all the
and the other young girl were killed. Like, we found their bodies, but I think we're missing a lot of scenes. Yeah, we were able to connect through DNA. I know they went back to that house and they tore it up and they ripped up the floors and they were able to, and they went through the drain system. That was the first time I'd ever read that they like took apart the drain system in the house in hopes that they would find like hair and all sorts of stuff, you know, years and years later. And I think they found some evidence still after that place had been remodeled. It is now split into 2.
Know what happened there.
I always wonder if the renters know the.
If,
I guess as a renter, you probably don't have to disclose it to your renters, only as a seller. But I mean, I don't know how you live in Phoenix. I mean, I guess I do know how you live in Phoenix and not know the story. I didn't know the story till I saw a post. I didn't know Alyssa's story till I saw a post. I don't know how we live every day.
But a lot of people don't look for it, like
crazy stories.
I don't know. I've tried to look into that.
No, and I wonder what about us.
I do a lot in psychology, and that's where my classes are, and that's what I look into, and like the books too. And I can't figure it out. Have you ever read True Crime Addict? That's James Renner going through his investigation on the Maura Murray case. I really like it. I've read it a few times, but in the beginning of that book, he says he took I don't know what the test is called, but it's like the test that you get at psychologists or something. Like Ted Bundy took the test and all those people. And he gets his test results back in the beginning of the book. And his psychologist tells him his test results resemble that of Ted Bundy. And so I've always thought maybe as like a whole, we all have a little more psychopathic tendencies just because that's who we look into. So we kind of have to understand the mind of them. Yeah. Like maybe we don't have the tendencies, but like,
or we can see
we're more
it
aware
other people
of all
can.
that.
It's kind of
somehow. Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah. My mom always told me, she's like, I could see you going either way. It was like a scale tip.
Yeah.
Like she was like at 2, you were helping your older brothers break out of stuff and like breaking into rooms. And she was like, I was like, oh, this is gonna go. She was like, but then like if you saw anything in a cage, you would cry and try to get it out.
Yeah,
she was like, so you were very
I'll find out what the name
confusing
of the
child.
test was, because
So
it's like
I would love to take a
one
test
that
to
like
figure it out,
everybody
too, like-
uses. It's like the standard test. Yeah, I don't remember that.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I can't
I don't know
the name either. Have you ever taken
don't
like
think
Googled
so.
and taken an aptitude test? Just a basic aptitude test,
Like the
to
like the
decide
ones?
what you should do.
Yeah.
They were given in school in high school when I was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, just to see what your career is. Do it as an adult now.
Okay.
Google it and take an aptitude test and see what you get.
Yeah.
I got criminal psychologist, detective.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool to take it now. I think after
because mine always said something like
driven towards is to go back and
like
take
scientific
it.
based.
Really cool.
I was never like a human like resources type person, but yeah, I can like vaguely remember what those suggestions were. So I'm gonna have to go do that.
Yeah, do it. It's really fun to take it as an adult. I was like, oh man, why didn't I get these as a kid? I mean, I got like chiropractor as a kid and like social worker, and I went to school for all that stuff and learned that you can go to school until you're blue in the face, but you have no power as a social worker. There's nothing. I mean, it's just, I know so many of them that stayed and went through the field and they're just broken and cry all the time because they feel so helpless in the system. I mean, I feel helpless in this system, but I feel like
we made a little more
shares
improvement.
A story that we cover, it just feels like, yes, we got a conversation. Little tiny bit, and like someone's talking about it, and so we've started a conversation. And I think that podcasters need to give themselves some credit. Like, start the conversation. You know, find those small cases that nobody's paying attention to, and start that conversation. Yeah, I think that would be awesome. Yeah, I hope more. I'm glad you do it too. You find some cases that I've never heard of, which is, and that's amazing. I love that. The ones that have such low coverage that you have to work the hardest on. Yeah. You know, right now I'm still battling. I'm a perfectionist and I can't. My husband will be like, are you going to be 48 before you release this episode? What is your problem? How many times are you going to edit it? Like, because I'm one of those people. And I spend so much time with these people. Like, half the time, like, especially Sherry, I'll be editing her and I just stop and cry. Like, because it's just, you can't not. Yeah, it hits like, you a little more. Just during the interview, I'm fine. And then when I go back and edit, I'm like, I can't believe. Like, it depends on the case for sure. Yeah, I think do that too. Because looking through them, I'm able to like distance myself, as like cold as that sounds. But like, I've been able, like I had like a weird childhood. I won't get into that, but I think through that I learned how to. Hold on. Stop. Yeah, she chews on the puzzle boxes, and it's really loud. But is it the bunny? I learned how to like distance myself or like disassociate from what is going on. So I think I use that in cases. Yeah. Right. But like then I'll re-look at them after I record them and stuff, and it'll hit me a little harder. And aspect. Yeah.
Like the no, it's not. Like the Gannon Stouch case,
I'm
that one
glad it's
hit me
not
really
just
hard.
me.
And I have no idea why. Because like I've looked at other cases like that, but that one hit me hard.
That one's awful. I think that's a study in itself
I don't
for
think
all
I
of
do.
us as to why these certain cases. I was telling my husband today, do you know the Tara
Okay.
Grinstead case?
Oh,
It's
yeah. Okay.
Payne Lindsay
Yep.
covered it. Massive case, another GBI
They're awful. Yeah.
disaster. Yeah. Yeah. I
Mhm.
see. I love that. My husband's like, why do you hate GBI? And I'm like, just say
No.
GBI to true crime community. Yeah. We'll
Mhm.
all lose our minds. We'll be angry. I always tell my family, please don't get murdered in Georgia. Please don't get murdered in Georgia. Like or Louisiana.
Yeah, don't.
We'll talk about that later.
Like,
But yeah, like those little swing southern
we have
states,
no
like
power there
don't get murdered
at all.
there. Because I just I can't do it. Right. And so with their cases with Tara Grinstead, it was, they talked about how they burned her body for days out on this farm. Well, you're driving home and there's this big barn or this big fire out in this orchard over here. And she was burned in orchard. And every time I drive by and it's at night and they're burning, I'm just like, oh, like it'll hit me, this wave, and Tara's face comes forefront. And I was wondering if, like, do you ever have cases where you're out and, like, I covered a case where a young boy killed another young boy and stuffed him in a trash can that looks exactly like my trash can that I roll back, that we all roll back. And every time
I've gone over a lot of cases of like missing college men
changed forever
and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of them actually took place in Milwaukee, and they always end up in the river downtown. And so I know like the exact places, and that's where we go to like go out to bars or anything like that. So then like I kind of get sad all of a sudden because like we're right by the river and like you just associate it.
Right.
Yeah.
It hits you. It changes your world in a different. Yeah. I'm like, oh, pretty orchard fire. Oh, yeah. It just kind of takes away. Yeah. It kind of stops you for a moment. And like you carry that around.
I don't know.
And my family always goes, how do
I'm
you function
reading
carrying that around
the
in your
book
head? And I
Columbine right now.
Don't know how to explain
which
it.
just goes over school shootings always affect me very differently. And I don't know why, because I can read like the most gruesome, like murder scene, like just dismembered bodies, all that, and I'm fine. But then I read like one chapter of Columbine and I was sitting here like crying and I was talking to my boyfriend, like, I don't like the book. I can't do it. And like, I don't know why.
Right. Because and I remember reading an interview from one of the mothers of one of the shooters, and her saying, like, I know what my son did was wrong. I know what he did was awful, but I'm still mourning my child. And trying to wrap my head around that when I was 12 and watching the breaking news as it was happening. Like I was home and I remember I was homesick that day from school. And I was watching General Hospital soap operas. That's right. Yep. Just chilling on the couch, eating my snacks. And it came through. And I remember being so shocked and terrified. Like I couldn't understand. They had the helicopters and they were in these schools. And it was the first time that I looked at a peer as a possible predator or danger. Like I never looked at my peers as a danger. And now my daughter, the other day we were at, a few months ago, we were at my mom's house and this alarm went off. She had this weird alarm package for her cell phone and it made this weird noise. And my daughter's face, literally all the blood flushed from her face. She turned pure white and the fear in her eyes and from this noise. And she gripped the table. I was like, baby, are you okay? And she was like,
yeah, we didn't even have those when I was in school. We never had drills for that.
That's her drill sound. Like
an alarm sound. Yeah.
That is terrifying. To see my child's reaction to just a sound. I was like, she has been trained to be terrified of her peers. Like, and I remember reading an interview where this one of the survivors said that his daughter had the flashing shoes that lit up when she ran.
Yeah.
And she never wanted to see him again because she was afraid in the closet it would light up and she'd get killed. Like, I'm like, never buy my kid flashy shoes.
Yeah.
Check. Like,
and the last chapter I read in that book recently was talking about how the carpenter from somewhere else brought 15 crosses to the hill behind the school, and he set them up. And it was each one had a name of a victim or the name of the shooters, because he wanted to just give a memorial to all of them. And everybody was being really okay with it, and they were being compassionate. And a lot of people were forgiving the shooters there. But then one dad of one of the victims just tore both of them down and threw them away. And I had a lot of opinions on that. And I posted it to Twitter, and then I deleted it. I deleted it right away because I wasn't sure like what would happen from that. But I talked about it and put it on like my Patreon thing, and just so I could talk about it for some reason. And I don't think it's forgivable what school shooters do. Obviously, I would never forgive them. But if there's people who wanted a place to forgive them and mourn them in the community, I think they should be able to have that place. And like everyone in the community was blaming like the parents, and they were being so mean to the parents. But
right. I agree
the
with
parents,
that 100%.
Like maybe they couldn't have seen this coming, and they're still they're mourning their kids. Like they're in.
Goes back to the people that are adults that are married to other adults that don't see the warning signs. How are you supposed to see the warning signs in your children when you're working, like running the rat race, seeing your kid after school for like 10 minutes before dinner time, and they get to go to sleep because there's no 2-parent system anymore. These moms were, and I get it. Like you said, it's unforgivable. It's absolutely unforgivable. And if it were my child that were killed in that, I probably would have misdirected anger for quite a few years. I don't know what I would do, but like you said, if it's okay with the people that it happened to, and okay, they were somebody's children. I know that what they did, but we also have to talk about the psyche of children and them not understanding the real consequences of things. That they could be 14, 15, but not every 14, 15-year-old really gets that.
They don't get it yet.
Do you know how many 14, 15-year-olds commit suicide and they thought they were going to come back from it somehow? They don't have any idea. So that, like, I can see where that gets. That one's a touchy one for me too. That's a really hard one, because that was a shock to my generation. That was like, what is this? We don't
we see
this.
it like far too often.
It's normal. It's too normal.
Yeah. There's been like no mass shootings.
I think that's the best thing about the pandemic right now, is they're not in school. I mean, there hasn't been any mass shootings. There's New York was seeing a dramatic drop. They said in the last, I think I read, they said last week or so, it's picked back up. We're seeing, as the states start to open up again, of course, we're seeing it was a nice lull for a little bit, you know, to have. It gave those departments time to catch up on some of these cases too, but I do see, as the states continue to open up, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of the same stuff again, because the world is broken, and I don't know why. Maybe that's what it is.
I think that's
we don't understand how they can do these things, and we want to understand. I think Crawl Space covered a episode with a guy that just wrote letters to serial killers because he was intrigued as to why they do what they do. And he said the same thing. He was like, I have daughters, and sorry, they'll never sleep over at someone's house. They'll never go to camp. They won't. And he was like, call me a monster, do whatever. But I got into it to understand. I just wanted to understand these cases. So he wrote these guys, and he said the things he got back were just insane. And sometimes you can't even tolerate or breathe or deal with it. But he forced himself through it just so he can understand. And they're like, okay, well, what did you do with all that knowledge? And it was just knowledge for himself to really like. So I think we just seek the answers of why we don't like unanswered questions. I think we don't like the open-ended, like, I want to see why and how this happened. Yeah, I think one of the cases that just hit me the hardest, which has always hit me, is Alyssa's, when I was listening to Sarah's Voices for Justice podcast, and they were talking about, to the brother, Rhett, and they said, well, what do you think happened to her? And I don't think I ever put myself in the mindset. I know he killed her, in my opinion, allegedly. I know, but I never played the scene out, and he said it so descriptively that I found myself like almost grieving her all over again. And that's crazy that we grieve these people that we've like never met. But the way he said, like, you know, I think he came home, I think he sexually assaulted her and killed her. I knew sexual assault was on the plate, but I never put them together in that moment. And it like sent me all the way back to just a whole new broken heart for her, because as much as I want to know the whys and as obsessive as I got to the case, those end parts, they're still, it's the human behind it.
I understand that.
I
but
get so
I will
mad
let
that
you
gets
go
lost.
because I kept you for a while.
That's
but
the sucky part.
I hope you'll be up to doing this again, because I did like you a lot, and I'm sure we have a ton more cases we can go over.
You're great. So it was awesome talking to you. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'll be excited.
So many. And I'm so excited to see what you do with Diane's case. Oh, I'm so excited. I was so happy. Yes.
I will.
That makes
Absolutely.
me so excited.
Yeah.
So
I'll send you
the
the spelling of that other one
definitely
too.
Reach out for sure. And I'm going to look into these cases.
Yeah,
I'm so excited. You gave me new cases.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Let's see. I'll see you later. Bye.